it's May. Welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to show you my typical process for filling up a sketchbook spread. It's a very trust the process and forgive the results kind of thing. Apologies if my voice sounds a little bit weird. I think I've mostly gotten over this little cold, but if my voice sounds off at all, then that might be why. But yeah, feel free to draw along with me while I just kind of ramble about recent goings on. So it's finally August, the end of Art Fight, thank goodness. It's funny, in the other video I'm like, you should do Art Fight, and now I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad that's over. I only really feel that way. I did it to myself. I saved 6 attacks for the very last day, and I managed to do them all. I really wasn't sure. Honestly, I was this close to giving up entirely. I had a goal of 18 attacks. It's the same amount of attacks I did last year, and honestly, I think it's kind of satisfying to see like the full 3 rows of 6 attacks. I don't know. But I did it. I didn't think I could, but I did. So that was really cool, but it really took a lot out of me. I messed up my neck because of my bad drawing posture, and then I just happened to develop this cold the very next day. All around the next day, I just had to take a complete day off from everything because I just like had completely wore myself out the day prior. But I'm still very impressed that I was able to get all those attacks done. I've noticed that it's not really a good idea for me to be drawing too many things back to back. Like I can't do too much of one thing, or else for my device's battery's sake, and I guess apparently for my battery's sake too. That's actually one of my goals for this month, is to be more balanced with the tasks that I perform and try to schedule them out in a way that won't be too overwhelming or burn me out too quickly, be reasonable for me to complete in a reasonable amount of time. But also balancing all the different categories of my life and trying to get everything done in the most efficient way possible, and as much done as possible in the most efficient amount of time. Anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about the character I'm drawing. So this is Cairo. She's my comfort OC. I feel comforted by her, and I draw her when I need comfort, and I feel very comfortable right now. If you attacked her during Art Fight, thank you. Thank you very much. That was really nice of you. But yeah, I hope my team won. It looked like we were winning before they hid the results. They hide the scores of the 2 teams in the last few days so that it's more mysterious. The werewolves were leading pretty much the whole competition, but I know anything can happen because that literally happened last year with Bloom and Wither. Wither was leading the entire time and I was on Team Bloom, and I was like, that's fine, that's okay, I don't need to win. But then Bloom won, so I mean, after that happened, I know that anything can happen because that happened last year. But honestly, I'm really optimistic about this year, and I think the werewolves have it this year, but we will see. Anyway, in other news, that's a shame what's happening to our Bluebird app, like for real. And I am intentionally not updating it because I do not support the rebrand, and I don't want the cute little bluebird icon to go away on my phone screen. It seriously is a shame though, especially because I know a lot of artists actually rely on Twitter to expand their businesses and reach clients and reach audience for their work, and I kind of used it for similar. I mean, I never really got that much reach on Twitter. I sort of just used it as like a place to ramble and also like retweet fun pictures and like fandom stuff. So basically how I used Tumblr back in the day. But even though it wasn't really something that worked for me necessarily, it worked for a lot of people. So it's a shame that what a shame that a prominent person in power can just sort of take something that was really precious to a lot of people and just run it into the ground like that. That's seriously such a shame. In light of more recent troubling news, unfortunately revolving around AI scraping and all that, a bunch of other people, and I included, are sort of scrambling around searching for an alternative. And I know the current state of that is that there's not really, at this point, there isn't really a true alternative. I know Twitter is still very much, the app is still working in the sense that it's still alive and well, it's still there, and I understand that artists can't just all go somewhere and just be at a place that's just for artists, because we need non-artists that can potentially be clients to artists and commission us, because typically artists aren't the one getting their main work from other artists, at least from what I understand and what I've seen, because I don't really have that much experience with that era of artist life myself. I don't really make an income from my art quite yet. Honestly, the main reason I'm looking for an alternative, I'm just looking for another sort of hub where I can easily reach and find people. Twitter was such a good way to like be connected with people. I don't know. Right now, I'm just sort of using my Instagram stories to sort of like update people and kind of, stay in touch with the community that I've assembled, I guess. I did attempt to make a return to Tumblr. I actually made some new blogs on Tumblr because the blogs I had when I was young, I kind of wanted to just preserve those in time, and I wanted to make new ones as a sort of fresh start, being a completely different person than the person I was when I was younger. But in many ways, honestly, kind of the same too, but still, I don't know, it's just not the same. Even though I refollowed a bunch of my friends and some newer artists, it's just, I don't know, there's just something about it. It's just the vibe, it's just not there. I don't know. I mean, I want to try to keep using it and try to be active, but for some reason, I don't know, I just don't have the drive to go back there as much as I did when I was younger. It just seems like it's, I don't know, it just seems like everywhere else, like every other social media I use, it just seems quieter. And I don't know, maybe it's a very me problem that's only just happening to me, but for some reason, like every media app I use, it just seems quiet, almost as if I'm trapped in my own little bubble. Like I'm trying to reach out, but I'm just trapped in my own little bubble. I don't know, does that make sense? For one thing, the reaching new people aspect is just pretty abysmal on every app so far from what I've seen. Like I'm kind of at peace with that at this point. For example, Instagram, honestly, I'm just posting for just like the few followers that like to see when I post, and also for myself as a portfolio of my work, but not just the reaching new audience aspect. I think the community aspect isn't what it quite used to be either. For that, I don't know, I think I was surrounded by a different group of people back in the day, like mutuals, friends, and sort of fandom adjacent people that I would see, and maybe I'm just not seeing those same people as much, and maybe my friends aren't as active. Maybe people have just kind of stopped using social media. I don't know. It could be for a lot of different reasons, but the whole climate of social media feels like it's just in a really odd state right now, as all the apps seem to be clamoring for everyone's attention. But honestly, as rough as things can be sometimes, I don't like to complain that much. I prefer to look at the bright side and express gratitude for what I do have and what I have been able to achieve. Like, for example, all the people that leave really nice comments on my Instagram posts, and the people that kind of just watch me and keep up with me in my silly little art journey as I draw silly little pictures, and now as I make silly little videos again. It really does mean a lot, and I know that even if I was just creating for 1 or 2 people, I would still create. Even if it was just for me, I would still create, but I just wouldn't post it online. But even if just 1 or 2 people was looking forward to what I would post, I would still be a regular creator, because honestly, I don't know, then I would have that special community with those like 1 or 2 people. I don't know, that's all that matters to me. If huge numbers don't affect me the way that like okay, like thousands, that's like fun and that's awesome and everything, but I prefer like a smaller, engaged sort of community, and that is what's most valuable to me personally. And honestly, I honestly feel like I've been able to achieve that. I don't know, and if you're watching this and you keep up with me regularly, just know that I hugely appreciate seeing your username pop up regularly. It really makes my day. Like, and I remember every single one of you, and I'm always just like, oh, this person sees it, and this person saw it again, and I don't know, it makes me really happy. Like, it sounds weird, especially if I haven't spoken with every single person that keeps up with my art journey. Like, I sort of get attached to seeing like the regular likers and commenters. I get attached to certain usernames to the point where I would get really sad if I like stopped seeing their username. So yeah, don't get me wrong, I'm just like everybody else in the sense that I want as many people as possible to see the things that I make, but a nice, engaged, small community is something that is very important to me too. So back to what we're drawing here. Probably at this point you've probably gotten an idea about what a typical like spread in my sketchbook is like. I don't know. I mean, at least when I don't have something specific in mind that I'm working on, like this is a typical, I guess, spread of when I sit down and I'm like, I don't know what to draw, but I want to fill up a few pages in my sketchbook. Usually it kind of looks a little bit like this. There could be a little bit of OCs, a little bit of cats. There's gonna be definitely a mix of anime style and realistic style just because I wholeheartedly love both styles. I like working in a stylized style and I like working in realistic. I think it's also important to practice realism too, so that when you're doing your stylistic art, you have a better understanding of the foundational rules that you're stylistically breaking. I also like to do art studies here and there, like up there in the upper right corner is a Ghibli screenshot study. I also really enjoy kind of using up what I have. I have a lot of different art materials that I've accumulated over the years as a young artist exploring all the avenues and facets and ways to make art. But I also think it's just really important to use up what you have instead of like always searching for a new thing to get, because that can get very expensive and very wasteful. And more often than not, if you look through your own collection of art supplies, even if it's not the latest and greatest stuff, more often than not, it's probably gonna get the job done perfectly well, because probably it is like the latest and greatest, or at least it was at the time that you got it. And just because it's not shiny and brand new now doesn't mean it doesn't work perfectly fine, that you have to go out and get the new thing just because your old thing isn't new anymore. I feel like we all revert back to using just a few mediums anyway, even though we see something and we're like, oh, I want to try that medium, and we end up with a little collection of stuff. I feel like as an artist you sort of become like drawn eventually to the couple that end up being your thing or part of your style anyway, so part of your collection starts to tend to go unused if you don't like pay attention to that. So that's something I'm also trying to like think about. I want to make sure that I'm using to the fullest my entire collection of art mediums. And I found that when you use a medium that you haven't used in a while or that you don't usually use, it's a good way to like become familiar with new techniques, and you might find some new inspiration through it as well. Some other things I like to do in my sketchbook: I like to cover up mistakes with sticky notes, I like to swatch right on the page, and I like doing that too because I like to go over on top of it again. I very much love drawing over things that I've already drawn, and you can kind of see that in a few different places here. I like to draw things and draw over them and be messy and unorganized and stuff. That just makes it even more fun. I mean, it's your sketchbook. You should just do what you want. If you want to draw over something, you go ahead and do that. In the past, I've tried to use separate sketchbooks for different purposes, but I found that that didn't really work as well for me, so I've gone back to using one universal sketchbook for most things. But I do have like one or two other like very specific intent designated sketchbooks. But for the most part, I try to do everything in one book. Oh my goodness, I just thought of that. Yeah, speaking of things that don't exactly work for me that well, so I took a poll on my Instagram not long back asking if people preferred perfect bound or spiral bound sketchbooks. Just out of curiosity, I already had my preference, but most people, I was surprised, really loved spiral bound, and I personally was on the side of perfect bound, like a book, sketchbooks. And so when I finished my previous sketchbook, I decided, you know what, let me give spiral bound a try. Since everyone seems to love it, it seems to be a really good option. Oh my goodness, I cannot emphasize how much this does not work for me. I am not a fan of spiral bound sketchbooks. I am totally team perfect bound. Anyway, now that I've thrown in that hot take there just to end the video, thank you very much for watching. If you're interested in seeing full tours of my sketchbooks, I do offer that as a reward on my Patreon, so if you're interested, please check it out. Alright, thank you for watching, bye!